Hey, what do you say to everybody? Gio City, right back with you here. I'm here, you're there, and together we discuss what Del Mar and the Breeders' Cup have in store for us in terms of the slate. And today we're going to talk about one of the exotics I know everybody is interested in playing because of the quality of low risk, high reward for an individual race, and that is the ever popular Superfecta. But before we get into that, let's talk about the slate. All right? I did some printouts, so I have a reference in front of me, but I have lots up here. First of all, what Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup this year is going to offer in terms of minimum wagering requirements, I'll share that with you. So on Future Stars or Juvenile Friday, when the Breeders' Cup begins 9 days from now on Halloween, October 31st, there's going to be a all-turf $3 minimum pick three, which figures to have a very significant pool that day. And throughout Friday and Saturday, of course, in each race, you're going to have a Uno, $1 minimum win, place, and show, exacta, daily double, rolling throughout both days. And then in each race, you're going to have a 50-cent minimum mutual triple, or as some people still call it, I don't, trifecta, a 50-cent minimal triple, a 50-cent minimum pick three, pick four, an all turf pick four, which is very interesting, an all dirt pick four, the pick fives, which we're going to have a separate show on altogether, and the not so popular but big paying super high five, which we'll cover another time as well. And then finally, for all 14 races, and this is something that's going to help a lot of you players out there with minimal capital, they have a 10-cent minimum superfecta, okay? And what that does is provide a lot of wagering opportunity in terms of using the super to your advantage based on what the board reads, okay? So Friday, Juvenile Friday, of course, it's going to start in race 6. These are all Breeders' Cup events, of course, the Juvenile Turf Sprint, the Juvenile Fillies, the Juvenile Fillies Turf, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile for the Colts, and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. And we'll have the exact post times for each race announced when we get the official entries. On Saturday, the slate starts in race 4. It's going to be the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, the Turf Sprint, the Breeders' Cup Distaff for the older fillies, the Breeders' Cup Turf, of course, the Breeders' Cup Classic, which I'm a purist. I'm a little bothered that it's right in the middle of the Saturday card instead of being the last race of the day. That's going to be for another discussion. There's all types of stuff going on with college football and the rights and where the live broadcast is going to be. And, unfortunately, the Breeders' Cup is going to be shown under different streaming feeds, and we're going to go over that schedule later on. But the Breeders' Cup Classic is right in the middle of the day. Then there's the Filly and Mare Turf, the Filly and Mare Sprint, the Breeders' Cup Mile, and the Breeders' Cup Sprint in race 12. So now that you have this slate, today's segment is going to be about Superfectas. And let me tell you something. I could tell you a couple stories, quick stories, but Mr. Setti, yours truly, over the course of many years, especially over the last 5 years, where I've sort of mastered the process, because Superfecta is unique in its way, and it's very difficult. So if you have 14 races covering 2 days. In this case, with the Breeders' Cup, 5 on Juvenile Friday and 9 on Championship Saturday. You have 14 opportunities with quality fields, grade 1 quality deep fields, where the board, the interest in the field is going to be determined by the players, the individual handicappers and horse players, and of course the CAWs who are involved in the pools. But ultimately, you're going to have 3, 4, or 5 horses that are going to be well executed, well bet in the field. And then you're going to have a significant amount of horses or a number of horses in the field who have shown quality in past performances and are at the Breeders' Cup for a reason, yet they'll be dismissed at a price. Now, a lot of people say, well, Gio, what are your long shots? What are your fit? I don't work that way. Let me explain to you how I work. I fully execute my handicap, covering everything I need to cover, no stones unturned. And if I land on my top choice, and my top choice is 35-1 or 3-5, that's my top choice. And because I offer a deep dive, precise order handicap, you know why I do that? Because I eliminate horses who I'm not interested in. And if there's horses that I believe have a better than mathematical chance to upset the field, they're going to be part of my handicap. They made my handicap, regardless of the odds. I've had my top deep dive handicap 6 in precise order in a deep field of 12 or 13. I've had every one of my horses at 10-1 or greater shown up on the board. And I've had every one of my horses at 4-1 or less showing up on the board. So I do my work, I create my own morning lines, and then one thing that's special about a Superfecta, obviously it's not a multi-race wager. So you're going to have 14 chances at the Breeders' Cup to nail the Superfecta. And a beautiful thing about it is obviously you're not going to hit all 14, you're not going to hit 10, you're probably not going to hit 8. But if you can nail 1, 2, or 3 Superfectas, especially if you nail it precise, cold, obviously you're going to be way ahead of the game. Now, not all Superfectas are alike. Obviously, a lot has to do with which horse wins the race, what were his or her odds, and which horse is placed or hit the board underneath. I'll tell you a couple quick stories. A few years ago on Preakness Day, I think it was like 3-4 years ago, it was a sloppy track. I loved the horse that Luis Sayas was on to win. I was decisive with him winning. So I had my win bet. I had him in my doubles and my pick 3s, and I singled him in my pick 5. But in that race, what I did, I played my cold Superfecta, because if my cold Superfecta hits and I'm right, I want to get paid for that first. And that's only $1, $2, or $3. Now, the beautiful thing that's available at Del Mar is based on your budget, you have 10-cent increments. So it starts with a dime. If you want it 2 times, it's 20 cents. You want it 3 times, it's 30 cents. You want to go a half a buck, it's 50 cents, and so on, all the way up to $1, or if you're so inclined to go to $2 or $3. But it gives you opportunity to leverage and to work and to create specific exotics regarding your Superfecta. And let me explain. So that day at Pimlico on a sloppy track, I loved the horse that Louise was on. If I remember correctly, he paid like $14 or $15. I had my cold super, but what I did was saying all the horses that made my handicap, made my deep dive underneath, I created the Superfecta key. Now, there's variations in price. Now, that day I was having a good day, so I did the $1 Superfecta key, and I used 4 horses underneath. So I have my winner and 4 horses underneath to make 3 that hit the board. Again, confidence in your handicap. And based on the board, because you have knowledge of what your horses look like on the board, that's how you customize or design your wager. So I thought it was to my advantage. I had my straight cold one already booked, $1, no big deal, which I did not hit that race. However, my key I slammed home because the 4 horses I used underneath, 3 out of the 4 were a robust price. Okay, 2 of them were better than 20-1. So when I was able to complete my key, and in that instance, it was a $1 Superfecta key, cost me $24. You know what the Superfecta paid that day for $1? It paid $3,800. So for $24, I collected $3,800. Now, you could have done a dime Superfecta key. It would have cost $2.40, and you would have won $380. Think of that return on your wager. That's the beauty and the embodiment of a Superfecta wager. Now, there are many variables, all right? I wrote a couple down. Remember, you could start with a dime, or you could double it and go to 20 cents. You could triple it and go to 30 cents. You could go a half a buck and do 50 cents. It's your choice based on your budget. Remember, the odds on the board determine how you're going to approach the Superfecta. Now, stay with me here. So if you have a dime, or work with the dime increment, obviously, if you want to do 50 cents or $1, times it by 5 or times it by 10 for the full price $1. But if you do a dime key over 4 horses to make 3, it's $2.40. If you do a dime Superfecta key with your top choice over 5 horses, it's $6. And if you do a dime Superfecta key over 6 horses to make 3, remember, over 5 horses you need to make 3 for 5. Over 4 horses, you need to make 3 out of 4 underneath. And with 6 horses, you need to make 3 out of 6. Now, what makes you go deeper into your key? It's the odds on the board. Because so many things can happen in a horse race after you have your winner who emerges victoriously. You may not hit your straight cold. If you do, you're doing jumping jacks. It's a beautiful thing because when you hit your straight Superfecta cold, by default, you hit your key. Beautiful thing. Now, you don't want to miss an opportunity with your horses, or if you're in my corner, the horses I have underneath. You don't want to miss a wonderful opportunity based on the horses that made your handicap. Like what I do is I say, okay, I have a precise order of 5, 6, or 7. These are horses that made my handicap. I'm not looking to use all 6 or 7 or 5 to win. I'm preparing myself for race day because A, there could be vet scratches where horses don't make it to the gate, and then I could move my horses up my priority order in my handicap. Or if I realize that in a 12 or 13 horse field, 7 horses made my handicap. What I mean by making my handicap, I could not dismiss them entirely. But typically, horses 5, 6, and 7 are less of an opportunity on the win end, but a more significant opportunity underneath in my exotics, especially in my Superfectas. And we're going to get into exactas and triples on another show. Or how deep we go in a pick 3, pick 4, pick 5. But regarding Superfectas, and trust me guys, this works, all right? The odds on the board determine how you bet the race. So if I have four horses with inflated odds on the board, or if my top choice happens to be 25 to 1 and I'm in on him, then I have to go deeper in my key. And you measure that. You determine you want to go for the full buck, because the full buck gets expensive on a $1 Superfecta key. If you were going to use 5 underneath to get 3 on the board under your winner, it's $60 or $6 for a 10-cent Superfecta, $12 for a 20-cent Superfecta, and so on. You do the math. But then we turn the page to something else. We have our cold super, and we have our Superfecta key. We've determined what our budget is. We watch the board. The odds are in my favor. Now, by the way, if your handicap lands on a precise 6 like mine does, and my top 3 happen to be where I landed the 3 top betting interests, that is not an opportunity to go for a thick, or extensive Superfecta key. It's more of an opportunity to say, this race, I'm going to go cold and I'm going to play a smaller key, or I'm going to take my top 2 in my cold exacta and then extend my exacta. And in those races where the prices are small, especially to save your betting capital, those races you could bet dollars or twos and have less cost to your tickets. It all depends on the rate of return or what you're anticipating. Now, let me tell you another story. I told you that one, and there's been many, but I just remember that day when I really loved the horse in a slop, and I used my key, and I collected a big chunk of change, all in cash right after the race. Same race betting, underneath value, the Superfecta. There was another time I was over at a simulcasting center, and I had a couple hours to kill in the afternoon, so I went in there. I didn't even handicap overnight. So I bought the racing form, and I started to dig in. And I had 4 races left on the card. If I can remember correctly, it was at Florida. It was at Tampa Bay. So I handicapped the races. I said to myself on one of the races, you know what? I like the race. I'm going to play it going forward in the pick 3 and double, and I'm going to play the Superfecta. You know what I did? I played a $1 Superfecta straight, just missed it. I think I ran first, second, fourth, and third. I didn't even go deep, but I boxed all 4 because of the odds on the board. I boxed it. Now, boxing 4 and getting all 4 to hit is not easy, but that day it was special because my 4 horses hit the board. The top 2 longest prices of the 4 ran 1-2. And for $2.40, the 10-cent Superfecta paid $1,150. So it was a 10-cent bet. I boxed the top 4, and all 4 hit the board. The 2 longest ones ran 1-2, and my Superfecta paid $1,150 on a 10-cent Superfecta mutual payout. I didn't have it straight, but I had the box, which leads me to say on Breeders' Cup Day, if you like 5 horses in the race in terms of a precise order, then you cover your straight, you have your key. But because racing will drive us crazy, and you can have a bad trip, you could get blocked in a stretch, you could have 3 horses hit the wire at the same time. Do you really want to lose a Superfecta opportunity, missing your key by a neck, nose, an inch, a head? Do you want to miss an opportunity because of a photo that didn't go in your favor? No. So when the board is indicating robust prices based on your handicap, that's when the box works. Now, you could take a 10-cent Superfecta and box 5 horses. You need to get 4 out of the 5. A 4-for-4 box is just $2.40. A 4 out of 5 or box and 5 horses for 10 cents is $12. That $12 wager can ultimately save you from the frustration of missing your cold super or your Superfecta key. The beautiful thing about Del Mar and the Breeders' Cup is they're allowing the 10-cent increment. Most people play Kentucky Derby Day. And I always do a full handicap for the whole 13 or 14 race Kentucky Derby card. And one of the things that's frustrating on Kentucky Derby Day, they don't allow it. You have to, every Superfecta is a $1 base. It starts at $1. There's no change. So it doesn't give you the flexibility, especially if you have limited or a specific level of capital for the entire Breeders' Cup 14 race extravaganza. So remember, use discretionary monies, but I'm going to end this show because I'm short on time. Let me know what you think. If you're a Superfecta player, do you extend exactas to make Superfectas? Do you first put your precise cold super? Because if that happens, you want to get paid for it, especially if it's $1. Or even if you're so inclined, 50 cents or 40 cents straight. Just get that out of the way. Because if you're perfect, you want to get paid for being perfect. But the key, and then subsequently the box to protect your key. Now, going 4-for-4 on the board is difficult in a 12, 13 horse field, especially at high odds. But you know what? It's only $2.40 any which way, all right, on a 10-cent bet. $24 on a $1 bet. But I love the Superfecta key, especially if the odds on the board are telling you to do so. You got to have the winner. But you don't want to lose the opportunity. If you slayed the race, you need to collect on your Superfecta if you're so inclined to bet them. But it's a lot of fun. And we're going to get into, I'm going to have additional shows before the Breeders' Cup on exactas, triples, daily doubles, pick threes, and doubles and pick threes could roll your winnings. That's when you start to slay cards. Let me know what you think. Send me a comment, please. Like and subscribe because this is something I'm putting a lot of energy into, and I need you guys with me, all right? So you guys have a great day. God bless you. God bless your families. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the essence of fall, and sooner or later we'll be right there on Breeders' Cup Friday.